Hi, welcome to Moveeno Recap. Smashing the subscribe button is very valuable to us, so go ahead and leave us a like. Sit back and enjoy.
In the opening scene, we see a group of young people in prison clothes work in the sun, digging holes in a remote location. One of them, a boy called Barfbag, deliberately gets bitten by a snake to avoid the tough work. Next, the movie shows Stanley Yelnats walking down the street when a pair of sneakers falls on his head, causing him to fall down. He decides to keep the shoes as his family is trying to cure their smelly shoes. But when he's on his way home, the police arrest him for allegedly stealing the sneakers. The sneakers belong to a well-known basketball player named Clyde Livingston, who had given them away to charity. The police take Stanley back home and tell his family what happened. However, the Yelnats family is unsurprised and believes that the family is cursed. Stanley appears in court and the judge sends him to Camp Green Lake, a juvenile detention center, for 18 months. At the camp, Stanley meets the strict manager, mshorror, who warns him that escape is futile due to the lack of water for miles and the deadly reptiles that inhabit the area. Stanley is given a uniform and instructed to dig a 5-foot deep, 5-foot diameter hole every day as a character-building exercise. Although not mandated to do so, if Stanley finds something intriguing while digging, he may earn a day off. Later, the camp psychologist, Dr. Pendansky, introduces Stanley to a group of boys who go by nicknames X-Ray, Armpit, Squid, Zigzag, Magnet, and Zero. Zero is the youngest and always silent. Stanley replaces Barfbag in the group after he was taken to the hospital. During lunch, Stanley discloses that he was wrongly accused of stealing Livingston's shoes. Zero breaks his silence, surprising everyone. A flashback then shows that Stanley's great-grandfather amassed a fortune in the stock market but was robbed by a woman named Kissing Kate Barlow. This leaves Stanley's great-grandfather penniless, and within months, he becomes completely broke. With no other option, he starts working at a European farm, where he falls in love with his master's daughter. He seeks guidance from a local fortune teller, Madame Zironi, on how to win the girl's affection. Despite this, Madame Zironi advises him to immigrate to the US, claiming that the girl is foolish. Stanley's great-grandfather considers her counsel but ultimately rejects it and proposes to the girl. Unfortunately, her father demands a large pig as a dowry for Stanley to marry his daughter. Stanley's great-grandfather returns to Madame Zironi, who gives him a piglet and instructs him to take it up the mountain to drink from a special stream. Stanley agrees and vows to see her again after he completes the task. He also promises to carry Madame Zironi up the mountain to rejuvenate her. As the pig grows in size, Stanley's great-grandfather carries it to the girl's father. However, as Madame Zironi had predicted, the girl proves to be foolish and is unable to decide between Stanley and another suitor. Disheartened, Stanley chooses to take Madame Zironi's original advice and departs for America. However, in the process, he forgets his promise to Madame Zironi and fails to carry her up the mountain. Furious, she curses Stanley's male descendants for all time. In the present day, Stanley becomes accustomed to life at the detention center. One day, he discovers a fossil and shows it to the camp counselor, Dr. Pendansky, hoping to earn a break. The counselor says the warden isn't into fossils and explains that the warden's grandpa owned all the land around a previous lake. The movie then goes back 100 years to when the grandpa was in charge. Sam sells onions and has a crush on a teacher named Catherine. He gives her onions for free, and she gives him peaches that she picked in return. Meanwhile, Stanley earns the respect of X-Ray and the others and gets the nickname Caveman because he's skilled at discovering fossils. One day, while reading funny stories from his mother's letter, Zero approaches him and asks what he's laughing at. Zero admits that he can't read and asks Stanley to teach him, but Stanley declines, saying he's too tired from digging. Stanley finds an object that looks like a shell casing with the initials KB. X-Ray takes it from him and gives it to the counselor to get a day off. The counselor tells the camp warden, who turns out to be a woman, about the discovery. She's impressed and rewards X-Ray while ordering everyone to dig deeper in his hole. In the past, the movie flashes back 100 years, and Sam offers to fix Miss Catherine's leaking roof for 3 jars of her spiced peaches, which she agrees to. As time passes, they become closer, but other men in the town also start showing interest in her. One night, Trout Walker hits on her, but she ignores him. Sam finishes the repair work, but they continue to spend time together. One day, he finally kisses her, but Trout Walker sees it and burns down her school out of jealousy. Catherine seeks help from the local sheriff, but he also tries to kiss her and tells her that her lover will be executed for kissing a white woman. Catherine, terrified after hearing about Sam's execution, rushes to warn him but arrives too late as he's already been shot in his boat. Devastated, Catherine decides to take revenge for his death. A few days later, she kills the sheriff and gives him the kiss he wanted before leaving. From that point on, Catherine becomes an outlaw and never looks back. Catherine becomes an outlaw and starts robbing and killing wealthy merchants and landowners, bidding them farewell with her signature kiss, earning her the nickname Kissing Kate Barlow. After Sam's execution, the town experiences a drought with no rain and the lake dries up, making Trout Walker and his wealth useless. In the present, one day Mr. Sir brings water to the boys and Magnet steals a bag of seeds. When Mr. Sir notices the missing bag, he threatens to punish everyone. Since no one takes responsibility, Stanley decides to take the blame to save everyone else. Mr. Sir takes him to the warden, hoping to get him punished for the theft. The warden surprises everyone by scolding Mr. Sir for distracting Stanley from his digging instead of punishing him for the theft. Stanley returns to the field, and Zero starts digging his hole as a way to thank him for taking the blame. Stanley is touched by the gesture and offers to teach Zero how to read and write. While hanging out, Stanley realizes that the shell casing he found earlier was actually a tube of lipstick. Stanley discovers that the shell casing he found earlier actually belonged to kissing Kate Barlow. Meanwhile, Zero reveals that his real name is Hector Zeroni and that he is related to Madame Zeroni, who cursed the Yelnats family years ago. One day, the manager finds out that Stanley makes Zero dig his holes, and he berates them both. Zero becomes so angry that he hits the manager with a shovel and runs away from the camp. The warden and other officials talk about Zero's escape and how he may not survive long because he's an orphan. This upsets Stanley, who hears it. Later, he remembers how his great-grandfather survived in the desert for 16 days after being robbed by Kate Barlow. Stanley's great-grandfather survived because of a place called God's Finger, but he went crazy and couldn't tell anyone where it was. The next day, Stanley decides to escape and search for his friend Zero. After walking for hours in the desert, he finally finds Zero sleeping under an old boat. Zero tells Stanley that he survived by eating the peaches he found in the boat, which belonged to Sam. They then spot a mountain that resembles a human thumb, and Stanley realizes it's God's finger after staring at it for a while. The boys climb the mountain, but Zero gets exhausted halfway and can't continue. Determined not to leave his friend behind, Stanley carries him on his back and completes the climb. Little did he know, this fulfilled his great-grandfather's promise to Madame Zeroni by carrying her great-grandson. At the mountaintop, the boys find the creek and Sam's onions growing nearby. Meanwhile, Stanley's father finds a solution for the stinking shoes, which involves peaches and onions. Stanley is also cleared of the charges and their lawyer arrives at the camp to take him home. The warden keeps quiet about Stanley's escape, but the next day, Zero admits that Stanley came to the camp because of him. Zero reveals that he had unknowingly stolen the sneakers from the charity auction and threw them off a bridge when he saw the police searching for them. Unfortunately for Stanley, the sneakers ended up landing on him by chance. When he hears this from Zero, Stanley is surprised but not upset. Instead, he feels grateful for having found God's thumb. The movie then flashes back to Kate Barlow finding Sam's boat in the dried-up lake that has turned into a desert. While reminiscing about her deceased lover, Kate is confronted by Trent Walker and his wife, who ask her to reveal where she has hidden her stolen treasures. They are in dire need of money due to their losses from the drought. Kate declines to assist them and does something shocking by allowing a yellow-spotted lizard to bite her. Ever since then, Trout Walker's descendants, including the present warden, have been excavating the dried-up lake to find Kate's treasure. In the present, Stanley and Zero revisit the area where Stanley discovered Kate's lipstick tube and managed to locate the treasure chest. However, their celebration is cut short when the warden and Mr. Sir appear and attempt to take the trunk. When the yellow-spotted lizards crawl onto the boys, the warden and her accomplice retreat. The following day, the warden waits for the lizards to leave so she can take the chest. However, the boys survive because the lizards are repelled by the onions they have consumed. Eventually, Stanley's lawyer arrives with the police, and the warden accuses the boys of stealing her chest. However, Zero points out that Stanley Yelnats is written on the trunk, refuting her accusations. As a result, Stanley is permitted to take the chest, and the warden and her cohorts are apprehended. The long-awaited rain finally falls in the desert for the first time in a century. Afterwards, the boys return to Stanley's home and divide the treasure evenly. With his newfound riches, Zero hires a private investigator and successfully locates his long-lost mother, who had also been searching for him. In the movie's final scene, the boys become neighbors and welcome all the children who were released from the camp to visit them. If you enjoyed this recap, please subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on notifications to see more videos like this. Thanks for watching.